The envelope arrived on a seemingly ordinary morning, January 1st, 2026. But within the polished halls of Clarence House, the air crackled with unspoken tension. Addressed to the king's private secretary, it was innocuous enough in appearance. What it contained, however, was anything but 47 pages. A dossier of financial records, emails, and transaction logs spanning 3 years, each one a ticking time bomb threatening to detonate beneath the fragile foundations of the monarchy. This wasn't some tabloid fishing expedition. This was the culmination of a discreet, forensic audit commissioned in late 2024 and executed with surgical precision by a specialist firm in These weren't gossip columnists or disgruntled former employees. These were experts in tracking high net worth assets across the globe, and their findings were about to send shockwaves through Buckingham Palace. The revelation? Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, had been quietly maintaining a private, offshore account under a corporate name in the British Virgin Islands. Between 2019 and 2022, a staggering $4.2 million had flowed into it. 4.2 million. Let that sink in. The timing, as they say, is everything. The account was opened just 3 months before Harry and Meghan's earth-shattering announcement that they would be stepping back from royal duties. And the deposits? They coincided almost exactly with the couple's carefully crafted public narrative of seeking financial independence, of being cut off from the royal purse strings, a narrative that, it now appears, was carefully obscuring a very different reality. But the documents didn't just reveal the existence of the account, they laid bare a trail of carefully orchestrated financial maneuvers. Email exchanges between Meghan and a Los Angeles-based financial advisor, time-stamped and meticulously detailed, outlined step-by-step instructions for structuring transfers to avoid reporting requirements in both the UK and the US. One email, dated November 14, 2019, was particularly damning. "We need to ensure this stays below the radar until we're completely clear of palace oversight," it read. Another, from February 20, 2020, just weeks before their final royal engagement, listed projected earnings from media contracts that were, at that point, still shrouded in secrecy. Streaming platforms, production deals, figures that later matched almost exactly the deals announced with Netflix and Spotify. Think about the implications. These negotiations were happening while the Sussexes were still working royals, receiving taxpayer-funded security, attending official functions on behalf of the crown. The documents paint a picture of a carefully plotted exit strategy, with financial arrangements secured months before even the Queen was fully informed. It's a level of calculated secrecy that would make even the most seasoned political operative raise an eyebrow. And it didn't stop there. The bank statements revealed frequent transfers from the British Virgin Islands account to a second account in Delaware, a state notorious for its corporate secrecy, allowing ownership to be hidden behind layers of shell companies. This Delaware account, it turns out, financed operational costs for Archewell, the Sussexes Foundation. Now, on the surface, this might seem perfectly normal. Archewell was promoted as a charity funded through private donations and personal earning. But in reality, a substantial portion of its early operating capital came from this undisclosed account, structured to avoid scrutiny and funded during a period when Meghan and Harry were still bound by royal financial protocols. Neither the palace nor the Charity Commission had any knowledge of these transactions. The money moved quietly, intentionally, invisibly. It was a financial shadow play, performed with the precision of a seasoned magician, designed to conceal the true source of their newfound wealth. The timeline adds another layer of clarity and a whole lot more concern. In January 2020, the Sussexes publicly announced their intention to step back from royal duties, stressing their desire for financial independence. By March, they had completed their final official engagements and relocated to North America. 3 months later, they purchased a sprawling $14 million estate in Montecito, California, putting down nearly $5 million. Reports at the time suggested a loan or perhaps private assistance from wealthy friends. The documents, however, tell a very different story. In May 2020, roughly £3 million was transferred from the offshore account to a US-based escrow service, directly funding the property purchase. This wasn't a loan. This was money quietly accumulated months earlier, shielded from oversight, and now fully under their control. Every detail, every timestamp, Every transfer paints a picture of meticulous planning and calculated secrecy. The files expose a side of the Sussexes' financial independence narrative that no public announcement ever revealed. A carefully concealed flow of funds that now sits at the center of a palace storm, threatening to engulf everything in its path. And now, with the evidence laid bare, the palace faces an unavoidable decision, one that strikes at the very heart of royal protocol and public trust. The quiet hum of the palace was shattered. A secret audit exposed Meghan, and now a royal title was set to be stripped. The year was late 2024. Something was off. Buckingham Palace quietly noticed. The exact spark remains unclear, but insiders point to what should have been a routine financial check of the royal estates. Something in the numbers didn't add up. Transactions appeared in accounts that had been closed or reassigned after the Sussexes stepped back from royal duties. At first, palace staff handled it internally, hoping it was just an accounting mistake. But early findings hinted at serious breaches of financial disclosure rules. When the potential severity became clear, the matter was escalated. A third-party audit was commissioned to leave no room for doubt. That investigation wrapped up in mid-December 2025, and the full report landed on the desks of King Charles and Prince William on January 1st. Within hours, a unanimous decision was made. Meghan Markle's title, the Duchess of Sussex, would not merely be suspended or reviewed, it would be stripped permanently. Letters patent were already being prepared, legal channels secured. The machinery of royal authority had started moving. The rarity of such a decision cannot be overstated. Taking a title is not like revoking a parking permit. It requires the monarch's direct approval, consultation with senior advisors, legal experts, and usually government input. The last comparable case was in 1936 when Edward VIII abdicated. Stripping a title is reserved for acts that shake the very foundation of the monarchy. According to sources familiar with the audit, the evidence against Meghan was unmistakable. The audit revealed an undeclared offshore account. Transactions were structured to avoid reporting thresholds. Money was shifted quietly without disclosure. At the very least, this is a grave breach of the financial transparency the royal family is expected to uphold. At worst, it raises questions about potential legal violations across multiple countries. The implications are staggering. But the story doesn't stop at numbers. For years, Meghan and Harry have told the world they were victims of an institution that abandoned them financially and emotionally. Their narrative painted a picture of hardship, forced to fend for themselves, cut off from support, struggling to make ends meet. Oprah, Netflix, the memoirs, all emphasize their supposed vulnerability. And yet, the documents now show that during the exact period Meghan claimed financial hardship, millions were quietly transferred into hidden accounts. Multi-million-dollar estates were purchased, funded through channels no one knew existed. The public image of vulnerability collapses under the weight of the evidence. What's even more shocking is what the internal palace memos reveal. Staff who managed the Sussexes' finances and logistics took careful notes. One memo dated December 2019 describes an unusual request from Meghan's office for a complete breakdown of royal expenditures on security, travel, and accommodations. Information typically not shared at this level. Another memo from February 2020 notes that outside parties, specifically a California law firm representing Meghan, had requested internal financial records weeks before her official departure. Why? What were they searching for? Who allowed it to happen? The pattern that emerges is chilling in its clarity. This was not a spontaneous choice to step back from royal duties. It was a meticulously planned exit strategy, securing hidden finances, setting up offshore structures, negotiating lucrative media deals, and gathering internal information to fortify future legal or public campaigns. Every move was documented. Every step was carefully executed. Yet, none of it was shared with the family or the institution they publicly represented. This was not independence. This was a carefully orchestrated deception. Now, let's talk about King Charles and Prince William, because their response tells you everything you need to know about how seriously they're taking this. For years, King Charles has been quietly reshaping the monarchy. His mission has been clear: modernize, streamline, and bring the institution closer to contemporary expectations. Slimmer operation, stricter financial oversight, and clear boundaries between personal wealth and institutional funds. These have been his guiding principles. But the recent revelations threaten to undo all of that. They suggest that a trusted member of the royal family may have deliberately operated outside those rules, exposing the crown to legal and reputational risk. Prince William has watched these events unfold with private frustration. Known for avoiding public confrontation, he has long maintained a careful distance from Harry and Meghan. Yet, insiders say he has been quietly exasperated by patterns of deception and manipulation. The new financial evidence appears to confirm his deepest concerns. He reportedly told his father that partial measures would be insufficient. The credibility of the monarchy, he argued, demanded swift and decisive action. Charles agreed. The move to strip Meghan of her title is not framed as punishment. It is a protective measure. By allowing her to retain royal status, while the documents suggest she violated the trust and transparency expected of the crown, the institution would risk far greater damage than by acting decisively. This is a line drawn in the sand. Membership in this family carries responsibilities, and privileges can be withdrawn when those responsibilities are broken. This principle applies to everyone, no matter the public story they craft or the media campaigns they run. Legally, Meghan could contest the decision. She might claim that her financial arrangements were legitimate, that the accounts were disclosed where required, or that her transactions were structured under professional advice and within the law. But the audit was conducted by an entirely independent firm with no stake in the outcome. The evidence is thorough, the timeline unambiguous, and the palace, for the first time in years, is willing to present facts rather than rely on anonymous sources or vague statements. Facts in this case are damning. Any legal challenge would force Meghan to testify under oath about where the funds originated, why they were hidden, and what her intentions were. She would have to provide documentation, answer probing questions, and face the intense scrutiny she had previously avoided, a risk any lawyer would caution against. Public perception is shifting as well. The Sussex brand has been carefully built on authenticity, truth-telling, and a narrative of standing up to a powerful institution. But truth and narrative collide when documents contradict the story. Negotiating deals in private while publicly pledging commitment to the crown erodes credibility. Standing up to an institution loses moral weight if financial gain was quietly prioritized. The contrast is stark, and the public is quick to notice it. When one side has concrete evidence and the other relies on carefully worded statements, evidence always dominates. As for Harry, he is not named as the central actor in the document. The accounts were registered under Meghan's name. The correspondence routed through her team, and the instructions came from her. But he is not untouched. As her spouse, he shares in the public narrative of financial independence, the media projects, and the strategic decisions around stepping back from royal duty. He either knew of the account, making him complicit, or he did not, raising questions about his awareness and control. Neither scenario reflects well. The palace's decision to focus on Meghan's title signals a distinction. She is the principal actor. He is second. At its core, this is about behavior, not just a single account. It is about patterns of decisions prioritizing personal wealth over institutional duty. It is about trust and the consequences when trust is broken. Why hide money if everything is legitimate? Why structure transactions to avoid scrutiny if there is nothing to conceal? Why negotiate lucrative media deals while still representing the crown if intentions were above board? The questions are uncomfortable, but unavoidable. The stakes are not just Meghan's reputation. They are the integrity of an institution that has endured for over a millennium by evolving, holding itself accountable, and refusing to tolerate actions that undermine its core value. The announcement will come. The palace is ready to act. The documents are clear, the timeline is damning, and the contradictions are impossible to ignore. These facts are indisputable. They exist independently of narrative, public relations, strategies, or media sympathy. They reveal that during the very period Meghan claimed financial struggle, a hidden financial structure was quietly in motion, not just while they held royal duties. Even after stepping back, Harry and Meghan have faced accusations of continuing to monetize the monarchy. The idea that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle monetized the monarchy has become one of the most persistent criticisms since their departure from royal duties. It is not about whether they were entitled to earn a living, but about when the groundwork was laid and what assets were used to secure those earnings. For critics, the controversy lies in the overlap between royal privilege and private profit, and whether the Sussexes crossed a line that previous generations carefully avoided. When Harry and Meghan stepped back in early 2020, the couple emphasized a desire for financial independence. Yet, within months, they announced lucrative agreements with Netflix, Spotify, publishers, and global speaking agencies. Commentators quickly pointed out that these deals were unlikely to have materialized without the visibility and credibility that came with being senior working royal. The question critics ask is simple but uncomfortable. Would these contracts have existed without the titles and global attention attached to them? Historically, members of the royal family have been restricted from commercial activity precisely to avoid this conflict. The monarchy's power has always rested on symbolism, continuity, and perceived neutrality. Royal status was not meant to be leveraged like a brand asset. Past royals who pursued commercial ventures often did so only after clear separation from royal roles, and even then under scrutiny. In that context, the Sussexes' rapid pivot into entertainment and media deals felt unprecedented. Public backlash intensified when critics noted that the content of these projects often centered on royal life itself. Interviews, documentaries, and memoirs drew heavily on palace experiences, family relationships, and internal tension. To supporters, this was simply Harry and Meghan telling their truth. To detractors, it looked like monetizing proximity to the crown while simultaneously denouncing it. That contradiction became the heart of the monetization debate. The International Business Times reported that royal commentators and constitutional experts warned this approach risked damaging the monarchy's reputation. The concern was not just about Harry and Meghan personally, but about precedent. If royal association could be converted into private profit without consequence, what would stop future royals from doing the same? The monarchy depends on restraint as much as relevance, and critics argue the Sussex model blurred that boundary beyond recognition.